Welcome, everyone, to this 10th episode of Blooming with Gentleness, the Mila Lune podcast. Today is a very special episode, and we have actually recorded, it's the second time that we record this one. It's going to be harder on me this time because I'm not as good in English as I am in French. And so the tables have turned. I'm with Vanessa, the French teacher, very active, very, very cool Instagram profile. And tips and tricks for bilingual families or people who want to integrate a new language in their families with their kids. And so, what a great day! And this is an episode where we will try to talk about all the myths and legends around raising bilingual or multilingual kids at home. So welcome, Vanessa. Vanessa, who is a French teacher, basically, and now who has 3 kids. I'm going to let you introduce yourself, Vanessa, and let us know a little more about you and your journey.
Thank you. And thank you so much for inviting me. So yes, I'm a mom of 3 really little ones, 4, 3, and 2, um, just to shock people. And at home, we are doing both French and English because I was also raised in this way. So I come from an Italian family, but my parents had the genius idea of putting us in a francophone school, and it was such a gift. I'm really forever grateful to them for putting us, me and my siblings, in a francophone school. And as I grew up, I ended up doing my whole education career in French and then going back to teach at that elementary school in French. I've also worked a lot with children in French immersion. But after becoming a mom, I started to see more this shift where I wanted to help other moms. I wanted to help other parents to support their kids learning French at home, especially parents who are not francophone themselves, who don't speak much French or any French. I saw that they really wanted to help and they kind of felt like they were on the sidelines. So that's what I do now. I help the parents more instead of focusing on teaching the children.
Well, you kind of explained that already, but you also you were raised, you're from Italy? So
My family.
your family is from Italy. So you were saying earlier in the previous episode, you were explaining how you still speak Italian with your grandma, and you're trying to get your kids exposed to Italian as well with your grandparents.
Yes, that's right. So my parents are Italian. So we try to keep that culture alive too, though my focus is really on French. Um, I try to kind of outsource that to my mom and my grandmother. So my children have a great grandmother, and they can speak to my mom and their great grandmother in Italian. We try to do a lot of music in Italian, some TV shows in Italian, just little things to introduce them to the culture and the language little by little every day. Yeah.
Yes, and for those who don't know, my kids, I have 2 boys, 8 and 10, and they are also bilingual. So their father is English. He's from Ottawa, and I'm from Mont-Tremblant, so I'm very, very French. But since they were born, my kids are also, we raised them in both languages since they were born. And I learned English because my parents took my brothers and I to live in Florida when we were young kids. I was 12, my younger brother was 8. So it just brought so much into our lives to be able to communicate in 2 languages. More languages is even better, in my opinion, but 2 is already great. So today, Vanessa and I's mission is to talk to you about how it's like or how you can start if you haven't yet, or to give you tips and tricks on how to integrate a new language in your family, whether it's French or English or Spanish or Italian, it doesn't matter. Today we're going to kind of go through the steps and the methods and how to integrate that without pressure and to make it fun. And so I want to start, Vanessa, if you're up for it. Let's start with some quick fire questions. True or false? And if you don't know, it's okay. You can just say that you don't know. It's fine. Bilingual children are confused.
False. They're not confused. They just have a lot of information to organize, but they're not confused.
Mixing languages is a problem.
No, false. It's not a problem. It's very, very normal. And it balances itself out later on. But at the beginning, especially, it's so normal and it's actually a good thing.
And I don't know about you, but I still do it. And I'm
Yeah.
38 and I still mix languages all the time. And my kids do too. They're 8 and 10 now and they will tell stories. And sometimes it's a story that starts in French and then it translate like it goes into English for a little while or to express part of the story and then back to French. So that's a
Yeah.
normal normal problem.
Very normal. And it just shows that flexibility of the bilingual brain being able to go get some vocabulary from this language or from that language. It's very normal. And I think with time, with a bigger vocabulary and with more effort, that can go away. But it's definitely not a bad thing.
I remember even when I lived in Florida, I had been there for about 6 months at that point, and that was a turning point in my mind because I started dreaming at night in English, which was very surprising, but also probably a good sign that I'm integrating the new language properly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that happened because you were saying you were, like, fully immersed in English at that point. So, we're hearing it every day, hearing the language, using the language very frequently, and that frequency is what makes it more comfortable to the point where you even dream in English, and that definitely happened to me back in the day when French was such a constant in my life with the teaching at school and all my friends speaking French. It's less frequent now, but, yeah, with that consistency, that's cool when you start dreaming and thinking in that language.
Right. Okay, next myth. The earlier you start, the better.
So, I know you I think you said that you totally agree with that, right? The
I
earlier you
do.
start.
I do. Many factors, actually. I do think so because, first of all, if you're born into it or at the very early age, then you don't develop a shyness around it or like I don't know. Yeah, I think when I was younger, speaking the language that I didn't know well enough, like even today, sometimes it's not embarrassing, but yeah, I'm a little shy about it.
Mm,
But if you're born into it, then you don't develop that fear of speaking it.
yeah. So I'm going to say it's false just because I really don't want to throw parents off or to like discourage parents because it's false in the sense that, of course, if you start earlier, it's absolutely true you're going to avoid language refusal later on. The earlier you start, the more comfortable the language is, and the more time, obviously, there is to introduce the language and to give the child, good exposure to that language. The later you start, the less time you have. But I think what is so awesome about starting early is that children not only have, that absorbent sponge brain, but what they have that we can easily imitate is, the courage to just imitate all the time. Like my kids are always just repeating what I say. They think it's fun to just imitate people and to try and not be afraid of making mistakes and to be really curious. Like they're really curious about how to say things. So I think if we can maintain the attitude of a child, then it's never too late. You can have the attitude of a child and learn later, but of course, it's very beneficial to start early.
I agree with you. And yes, you and I both are not neuroscience professionals or experts or anything like that. But I do feel like I've heard that before that also the brain, the younger you are, the more flexible it is and the easier it is to absorb new information. So if you haven't started yet, parents, please do.
It'll be
um,
easier.
it'll be easier.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. You have to be perfectly bilingual to pass on a language.
False. You don't have to be perfectly bilingual. You just have to be very present. You have to be very willing to learn alongside your child and be present, but not perfect at all.
I strongly agree. Um, you songs count as language exposure.
Yes, absolutely. And they can be especially beneficial if you don't speak the target language. Playing music can kind of help your child hear native speakers in that language. And of course, everything just sticks better when there's a nice melody, and it's much easier to learn languages through music for sure.
Children and adults can lose a language if they stop hearing it or if they're not exposed to it anymore.
True, especially if it's like a long period of time. Even just the summer months, even just when kids, like here in Ontario, for example, in Canada, kids are in French immersion for 10 months out of the year, and then they don't speak any French maybe for 2 months over the summer. That period of time can really set them back in September, and they've lost a little bit of French, or they feel less comfortable speaking. So that's absolutely true because language is like a muscle, and if you don't use it, you'll lose it.
Okay. Done with the quick fire questions and the myths. Do bilingual children actually start talking later? Actually, that is one myth that they start talking later because they're confused. Or is that a myth or is that reality? According to
Yeah, I don't know the, like, actual research on that. As we said, we're not, very, well versed on the research, but in just our experience, I think, like, in my own children, for example, they might take longer to speak, but it's not necessarily because of all the introduction of languages. They are absorbing so much, and their brain has to organize, like, 2 different groups of vocabulary, 2 different ways of, like, forming sentences. They have to organize a lot of information, so it might take them longer to feel comfortable to speak, but when they do, they just start running and speaking. They have a lot to say. So, I think, it's
yeah,
possible in some kids, but it's not the case for every kid.
I remember that my first kid, Henry, when he was starting to do. I think there's a huge difference between he didn't start talking later, but I think he started making full sentences later. Just because it was, he could pronounce words and a bunch of them and like his vocabulary was great, but like putting together all the pieces, that's where I think he took maybe a little longer. Just because like you said, there's more pieces to the puzzle to
Mhm. And I hear that too, like, I'll hear my kids, like, especially the little one, like, at 2 years old, like, maybe you have a list of like 15, 20 words that he says in English, but then you also have 15, 20 words that he says in French. So put together, like that's a lot. And maybe he can't say them in full sentences yet, but he's building something and it might just take him longer to figure out how to put it together, but he has a lot of words.
yeah. So we kind of just answered that question, but still, is it normal for children to mix languages?
Very, very normal. And I know that's something I think parents are worried about, especially when their kids are studying French, like in school. They're worried about that, but I don't think it's something to worry about at all. I think it's very normal. You and I have both said we do that sometimes still. It's just the flexible bilingual brain going to kind of get words from the other language if you can't find them in the language you're speaking.
Uh-huh.
And I think with time, as your vocabulary develops, that kind of goes away. Um, but especially at the beginning, it's totally normal, and it's again a good thing because the child is actually trying to express himself or herself. So it doesn't really matter if they're like, "Oh, I can't find this word, so I'll go get it in that language." That's good.
I agree. Is it true that they may never become truly fluent in either languages?
No, I don't think that's true. I think bilingualism is a spectrum and it can fluctuate. And if we're talking about two languages like French and English, they might not always be exactly equal. At one point in your life, you might be stronger in French, but then later on, after some years, you might be stronger in English or vice versa. And also, like, depending on what you're talking about, you might feel stronger speaking about scientific terms in English, but talking with my children, in French. So I think it really fluctuates and it's not a matter of being perfectly bilingual or being speaking one language perfectly. It's just a matter of being able to communicate with different people at different times and it can change.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I think you've said something important there too. That the fact that if you're at home, you're more exposed to English, I'd say, but at work, your main focus is French, or you will talk more technical terms or a very specific vocabulary to your field of work. You will be better. You will be better in French for that specific context of your life, which makes complete sense. Um, does one parent have to speak only one language while the other speaks another? Does that help?
So that is a really great method. So I think there's like four tested and tried proven methods for raising bilingual or multilingual kids, and one parent one language, opal, is a really great method because the child associates this parent with French and this parent with English, so they're more likely to respond in that target language. But it's not the only way. So there's definitely other ways. I wouldn't say it's the best way. Um, I think as long as there's meaningful interactions in each language, it could be with both parents. Um, then we don't necessarily have to stick to one parent, one language.
I think this I said offline while we were talking, just you and I, before we started recording. But there's one funny thing that I told you earlier about Henry, my oldest. When he was a baby, instead of calling him, like, I would speak to him mostly in French, but sometimes in English. But for some reason, unknown reason, I would never call him Henri the French version of his name. So to this day, my 10-year-old refuses to be called Henri. Like, it has to be Henry in all languages. What, like, always. And like, it insults him if we call him Henri, which
Hmm.
is so sad because Henri is such a beautiful name. I'm biased, but I think so. And so that's funny. You see how he associated his name has to be only one pronunciation. It doesn't matter what language we're talking right now. It's Henry, even in French.
Yeah. So it's a comfort thing too. Like even if, for example, looking in hindsight, even if you were to have thrown in Henri, just even here and there, maybe he would have been more comfortable. I think it's just like I don't want parents to think that like it has to be all the time. It has to be perfect. Just little like exposure to the target language, but consistently can make a really big difference in the comfort level.
Absolutely. Is there such a thing as being too old to learn another language?
No. And I think this is what I was saying before. As long as we kind of um, keep that childlike curiosity and that childlike audacity to try and not be afraid of making mistakes, I don't think there's a such thing as being too old. There's definitely a benefit if you have young children. You will thank yourself later, starting early, because you won't have that refusal that sometimes children will give you if they're not exposed to the language early and they don't build those positive connections, have those positive memories and experiences early, then it is definitely easier to hesitate, but you're never too old to start. Just try to keep a childlike attitude.
Yes. Yes. Excellent point. Um, the benefits of speaking one, two, or many more languages, what are they? The biggest advantages of growing up with multiple languages, according to
Yeah, so many
you?
benefits. I think as a parent, I think I would my first top pick for benefits would be just all the opportunities that open up for my children, for me, as they have in my life. My parents, giving me this gift of bilingualism has opened so many doors, for career, for starting businesses, for traveling. So the opportunities and all the doors that speaking multiple languages unlocks, that's a huge benefit. And then I think I would also talk about like the social benefits, being able to make friends from another culture, another language, and just have more relationships and connect with more people. I think that's one of the great things.
What are the social, cultural, well, you kind of said that, but emotional benefits of being bilingual? Like being able to connect with people easier from different backgrounds, different cultures, but
Mhm.
also, on a different level or a different aspect. I think, again, we're not neuroscience experts or anything like that, but in our observations, um, speaking more than one language, how does that influence problem solving, creativity, or cognitive flexibility? In the same, I think it kind of does the same thing as, let's say, you would be learning music.
Yeah. Yeah, and it does. It totally does. Again, we're not going to quote the research papers, but there is research out there that shows that children who speak more than one language, they have this flexibility, they have this mental flexibility of not seeing things in black and white, seeing things more nuanced, understanding that there's more than one way to to describe something, there's more than one name for something, there's more than one way to solve a problem. They definitely have a sort of flexibility that children who learn only one language don't have.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What challenges do bilingual or multilingual families most commonly face?
I think there's a lot of pressure. I think a challenge is feeling like I don't speak that language. I'll just speak about like the French. Like I don't speak enough French, so I can't help. Or in order to help, I need to learn to speak fluent French. So I think there's a lot of pressure on like what a bilingual family looks like and what a bilingual home looks like. Um, so I think that could create like a barrier and make it also less fun, more stressful for the parents and the children. So I think that that's a big barrier.
Right. What should parents do if their child refuses to speak the language?
I think it's all about just making it more fun, making the language something that is not tied to stress, something that's not only tied to school, to academics, to tests and things like that. So, like in my world with the families I work with, oftentimes, a child will say, "I don't like French," but what's really happening is not that they don't like the language. No one really, just doesn't like a language. Language is just a way we communicate. What's really happening is the child is saying, I don't like the experiences I have with this language. I don't have any
Mm.
positive experiences or memories with this language. So they don't feel comfortable enough to speak it. But the good news is that we can easily fix that by bringing French into the home, especially into family life, with the relationships that are the most comfortable and the closest to us with mom, with dad, with our siblings, with grandparents, and introducing French there in little ways, little by little, to just make it more comfortable, more normal in our everyday life and not just a school subject.
Right. What are some of the best ways to naturally integrate multiple one or multiple languages in your everyday life with the kids?
Yeah, so we can start with like small daily conversations or phrases. Um, and that's what I meant with by the fact that like every bilingual home can look different. Like if we're not at a place where we can have full conversations with our child in French or that target language, just choosing one phrase that you're going to say every day. And this is what I teach a lot. It's called the anchor method, where we're going to anchor one phrase to one routine. So maybe every day when you wake up, you say bonjour, comment ça va? And that's the way you greet your child with the one French phrase. And that's it. So we can start doing that every day and then adding more to that as we get comfortable. So little conversations like that. Media is a great way, starting to play music in that target language, starting to play French music in the background every day. Find like a playlist you like or make a playlist, watching a show in the target language. And I think what's really important here is introducing something brand new. So definitely don't go change the language for your kids' like favorite show on Amazon Prime or Netflix to French because they won't like that. But finding something completely new in French and showing that once a week or once every few days, I think is a great way to hear the language in the home and start making it feel normal.
For the English parents listening to us right now, do you have some recommendations of French shows or YouTube videos or anything like that you'd like to recommend?
Yes. So on YouTube, my kids and I, we watch your show sometimes, Mila Lune. I like that because it's both French and English and it's based here in Canada. Then there's also some France YouTube videos that we watch, Tatsidi Lou, Mila Lune. There's lots out there. Sorry, Mila Lune is you.
Yeah, no, Mimi
Mini
Soleil.
Soleil.
Mhm.
Mini
Yeah, I like her
Soleil.
too. Yeah, I like her too.
Yeah, I think there's lots of great shows out there that target especially like young children and make it really easy for my kids to listen and repeat and understand what's going on. And then we also do like if anyone knows Dora the Explorer, there's a French version of that, and that's cool because it's also completely bilingual as your show is, where she'll speak in French but throw in some English. So that's nice to start with. And I also started with my kids. We only watch TV in French, so we started with Paw Patrol, La Pat Patrouille en
Mhm.
français. So they only know that in French, thank God. So we watch that. So you can kind of find something that you know your kid likes and introduce it to them en français.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I think starting with something fun, like even maybe playing a game or buying a book in French and just reading the words together. It doesn't have to be, like you said, no pressure, just fun, like fun little moments that can create a positive experience for children.
Yeah.
Um, what advice would you give parents who aren't perfectly bilingual but still want to expose their children to a second language? Like we said it earlier, yet you don't have to be bilingual, you don't have to be perfect in another language. But what's your best advice for those who'd like to start today?
Yeah, my best advice would be just to start, to definitely not be hesitant, to start incorporating French or the target language in the home in one small way. So I obviously give a lot of advice on this, a lot of little routines that you can do. But let's say you chose, the book aspect. You can go to the library and you can find lots of books. We love the books that come with a CD, so you can hear the CD and follow in the book. So maybe you choose that and that's what you do this week. Or maybe you choose one phrase and that's what you're going to say every day to start incorporating the language at home. So just choosing one thing, whether it's a phrase, a piece of media, and just start doing that. And when that starts to feel comfortable, start adding one more thing.
So this is more of a personal opinion question, I think, but you mentioned very briefly earlier on in the episode that your grandmother speaks Italian and that she's still present and that your kids interact with her. Do you think that learning a grandparent's language strengthens a child's sense of identity and belonging?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I love the fact that Italian is still present in our family. And I see my kids, especially my eldest, who's 4, my daughter, I see her building, a deeper bond with my grandmother, her great grandmother, because she's able to, read books in Italian with her, and she likes doing that, or she'll sing in the choir at church in Italian. Like, she really likes being part of that, and I think that strengthens her bond with her great grandmother, and it also strengthens her identity as an Italian person. We try to let them know, like, this is your culture, this is where our family comes from, and I think that really helps. Yeah.
Definitely. I agree with that. Um, okay, so that's is there anything you'd like to add that you feel we haven't covered about, the myths and realities and tips and tricks about speaking multiple languages? Just before I
I
ask.
think we've said everything. I'm not sure if we talked about this in the English version because we just did it in French, but I know, like, one of the myths that parents have, and one of the worries that they have a lot, is like, they know that their kid understands French or whatever the target language is. I know that my kid understands, but they're not speaking yet, and they get really worried about that. And I think it's important to distinguish, like, these two skills, understanding and speaking. They're two completely different skills. And your child may be able to understand and read and write, but until the language becomes something very comfortable and normal for them, understanding doesn't equal speaking. So that comes after comfort is established, and comfort comes from just making the language more present every day.
That's a really good point. So they're still learning, even if it doesn't show yet because they're not
Yeah.
speaking it. It's still registering.
Yeah. And they're just lacking the confidence to speak.
Hmm.
And that confidence is built through comfort.
Vanessa, tell us about your services because tell us what you do. How can we follow you? What do you recommend? What's your methods? Let us know.
Yeah, so I help parents who are not French speaking, or who speak a little bit of French but don't feel very comfortable supporting their child's French learning at home. And they want to be more involved. They want to help their kids speak French confidently. They want to do this, integrating French at home that we're talking about. So if you follow me at thefrenchteacher.ca on Instagram, or on Facebook, it's Madame Vanessa French at Home. I teach a lot about ways that you can do that. And then I also offer the French for Parents beginner bundle, which is really just like a full system. It's a plan for practicing at home, like a phrase book for parents with the most needed phrases for your everyday family life, and little videos to help parents do this and to help them bring French into the home and help their kids speak confidently.
That's so incredibly fascinating. I think it's super cool what you're doing. Like,
Thank you.
so if you're not already following Vanessa, the French teacher, on Instagram, please do. Her Instagram page is incredible and full of tips and tricks on how to integrate French or another language, it applies. It doesn't have to be French, but it's good tricks and tips on how to do it. And as you said earlier, Vanessa, if I feel like the best advice here today is just if you haven't started yet and you want to start, just start. Just put on a TV show that's in French, just, read a book in French, anything helps, a song in French, like you said earlier. But I'm gonna give you the final words here, and let you finish off this episode on maybe the best advice that you would like people to remember.
Yeah, I agree. I think let's remember that speaking another language is not about speaking it perfectly. It's not about, sounding great. It's about having more relationships with people. It's about being able to have this conversation with you. It's about opening doors in this world for our kids, for ourselves. So just start, as you said, choose something, and whether it's a show on YouTube, whether it's a book, whether it's integrating, these sentences that I teach, start with something so that we can start opening those doors and growing in bilingualism, not perfectly, just consistently.
Thank you so very much for accepting my invitation to the podcast. This was super
Thank
insightful, and thank you. That was great.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Bye.